Just as 2024 went out, 2025 comes in with Arsenal having the best record in the league. This is the ArsenalVision Post-Match Podcast. My name is Elliot Smith, Blackman, Twitter, Ink Gunner. That's right. 2025, we are top of the calendar league. Say we are top of the calendar league. It is the case that years make more sense than seasons. What is a 2024-25? What is that? There's years. And if we replace the season calendar with a calendar year, we would have multiple league titles over the last couple of decades. I think it is just a reminder that there is an agenda, that there is a conspiracy to deny Arsenal the trophies we richly deserve. We can look into that another time, but I think it is definitely a topic we will want to cover. Happy New Year, everybody. I hope you had a wonderful, healthy, happy, joyous New Year. If it was a struggle for you, 2025 will be better. If 2024 was great, 2025 will be greater. And either way, we love you and we are glad that you are here and we're excited to go on the journey that is 2025 together. And it is off to a flying start with Arsenal getting an away win in impressive fashion. Ethan Nwaneri starting, all kinds of good stuff to discuss. I will tell you, though, it was, how do I say this, a legendary festive period for hate watching. Liverpool refused to participate, but that's okay. City were in it, Spurs were in it, Chelsea were in it, United were absolutely in it. And by in it, I mean the mud, as the kids say. And we did a Power Rankings episode, Tim and I, that's over on the Patreon if you want to listen to it. That's essentially just, it's like if a Schadenfreude episode went to a fancy dress party, right? That's really all it is. It's a great episode laughing at the travails and trials of our rivals. And I really do believe if you didn't live through the Sir Alex Ferguson era at Manchester United, you can't fully appreciate how sweet these moments are. So Ruben Amorim, we are happy you are here, and we hope you stay for a long time, although we know you will not. Okay, that's about it. We got other stuff going on. It is scouting video season. We'll have some scouting videos. My guess is that Antoine Semenyo will be on the agenda with Clive and I. Marmouche, probably a name we'll be looking at. Maybe, probably. I think it's possible. There may be one or two others, 3 or 4 others, 10 or 11 others. Who knows? All things are possible in the month of January. And what is possible is that we could discuss the win at Brentford, and we can do it with Phil. You can find him on, well, wherever. You know what? Hey, Phil.
Hello, Elliot. Happy New Year, and Happy New Year to Clive as well. It's nice to hear. Nice to be here and join you.
It is wonderful to have you here, and I have to say at this point, with all the social media sites, I have no idea what anyone's handle is. So it is going to be up to you, dear listener, to look them up, to find them wherever they are, or indeed not find them at all. That's also a possibility. And here with me now is Clive. Hello, Clive.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm all right. Feeling good, actually.
Clive, I'm going to share something private that you said to us off mic. Are you engaging in dry January?
Yeah, but it only starts on Sunday. I'm not back to work till Monday. As far as I'm concerned, I'm out tonight. Tomorrow night, I'm out Saturday. Christmas is still going on, mate. It's rain to Celtic
so
today.
You're doing dry January if January was February, if it was a 28-day month, which is totally fine. I do want to say to people listening, though, if you see Clive around the ground at the Emirates, just make sure to keep him honest. A lot of games, a lot of home games in January. Don't let him have any of those free club-level beers. Make sure you keep him off that stuff and keep him honest. That's what you are here for. Okay, I am really excited about this. I feel really positive about what we saw against Brentford. We'll talk a bit about Brighton. We'll talk a bit about the transfer window as well. But look, I could relate to what the team was experiencing because waking up New Year's Day and feeling a little bit ill in your tummy is not an unusual experience for many people. I have woken up many a New Year's Day, not in the morning so much, but woken up not feeling my best, and that was happening in the camp. There were multiple illnesses going through the camp. We don't know exactly who was ill. We do know that Kai Havertz was ill, and Clive, we got the news. Havertz not in the squad. Rice not fit enough or well enough to start. We don't know who started that was playing through illness, although I imagine quite a few probably were. And some of them looked like they were, let's be honest. But we did get our first look at Ethan Nwaneri off the right in the sort of Saka role, which is one that I think suits him really well. In Mikel Merino getting a start at that sort of left 8 role that I don't think has been grabbed by anybody. Jesus up front, Martinelli on the left. An interesting and exciting lineup. I think one that was fun to get a look at. What did you think when you heard that our players had the shits?
Yeah, the whole day was sort of like doom laden, wasn't it? Those people who tweet stuff started to tweet stuff, right? Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh my God, here we go. We've got people ill. And it reminded me of the Brentford game on that Friday night when they first came up. They had a few problems with COVID that night, remember? And we lost. Everyone was laughing at Ben White and laughing at our signings and laughing at all these young players that we bought, that we've overpaid for, that weren't good enough. Mikel Merino didn't know what he was doing. And I thought, here we go. Is that going to be like a full circle where we come back? We can't afford to lose any points. And here we are at Brentford, the only game on TV in front of the nation. It's a setup, mate. You know what I mean? It's a setup. And so I was already in the Elliot mud. I'm down there worried, you know? So, and then, of course, the first moment, then the team comes out and players that I think are definitely going to play, just a couple of them are just not there, right? You're thinking, oh, God, here we go. So, yeah, but we did all right, didn't we? I rewatched the game today, so I won't go too heavy into it, but we did all right. And, you know, watched this team many, many times. I will say to you, they surprised me on this game. I thought there were things in the post that we could not avoid, but they surprised me. And it got me thinking about the mentality of the group. And maybe even someone like myself who think I've seen most things, I'm underestimating it. Maybe I'm underestimating it, you know? And, so, yeah, they surprised me. And I was very pleased to be surprised.
I have to level with you. I think we're in a weird mode, Phil, and I talked about this a little on the instant reaction, but I want to just get your take on this. There is an expectation of immense quality, performance, and points accumulation from this team, regardless of circumstance. No one wants to hear excuses. And I understand that. But I think in a way that Mikel and this team have so convinced us of their quality in a way that now we expect that quality to show even under circumstances where it would not normally be expected. And what I mean is, when you go to the team with the best home record or joint best home record that scored the most home goals without your £110 million midfield signing, without your goal-scoring leader, £65 million Kai Havertz, 60 million down the drain, whatever it is, when you are without your best player and probably the second best player in the league and one of the best players in the world, and the expectation is still go win at Brentford. No excuses, compete for a title. And we keep taking Jenga blocks out of the Jenga tower, and the Arsenal fans still expect the tower to stand. And I think that's actually a tremendous reminder of just how special we've been and just how special our game model is and the system is and the squad is that Mikel has built. Because you take all these pieces out, and there is no willingness to say, well, you know what, without Saka, without Kai, without Rice, there's an illness in the squad, this might be one where a draw would do. Nope. There's no excuses. So what do you think about that fact? The fact that we played without Odegaard, we played without Saliba, we played without Saka, we're going to play without Saka, and yet not only do we expect to perform, we still get performances. I actually think we probably underrate how special it is that we're able to maintain a level with so much missing, you know?
No, agreed. I mean, we've been dealt a difficult hand already this season with red cards, injuries, a difficult and condensed fixture schedule, which has given us some really tough away games, all of which were next to each other for some reason. But we don't need to go over everything again because we know these points, we know these reasons we've done it. I just thought that might have been our best performance of the season, considering the circumstances. Like you said, yesterday we were without Rice, even though he was on the bench, without Havertz, who has scored both of our last winning goals against Brentford in 2 different games through illness. Obviously, we're missing Bukayo Saka for an extended period now. Other players were probably suffering with that bug that we don't know about. And more importantly,
by the way, I'll throw in Ben White's not there. Raheem Sterling's not there. Players we just stopped even thinking about. You know,
and more importantly, we came back from behind, away from home, to win a game, which is something we haven't done since February 2023. Remember that game? Which one it was? Villa.
February 2023. Oh, no way.
The Emi Martinez goal. So that's a long old time. I think it's the first time in nine occasions where we've gone behind away from home. So this was a tough one. And the first few minutes I was thinking this is a game that Arsenal feel like they're going to lose. Just purely because of what's happening, what we've been dealing with. I mean, Brentford, joint strongest home record. They start quickly. They score early. They're extremely vertical team, which can be difficult to handle. But we managed the second half really well. The thing is with this team, we don't always look pretty, but we're still really, really good. And I think our standards over the last two and a bit years have kind of broken our brains a little bit. And me included, I completely fall into that category. But overall, super impressive win. I was really pleased with the performance. And you know, sometimes you just have to win. And we did yesterday, so can't complain.
It's funny, in a way, I think we achieved something yesterday that we failed to achieve against Ipswich, right? Which is there was this desire with Ipswich at home and Saka not there to see that Arsenal could still be the Arsenal absent Saka. And I think, first of all, we all have to acknowledge we're not going to be. There is no team on the planet that takes out its best player and one of the best players in the world and is the same team. That's not how this works. And so this team is going to have to find ways to win that rely on other things. I mean, at the end of the day, the hardest thing in football is scoring a goal, creating that magical moment or finishing that magical moment. And the player who usually does it for us is Bukayo Saka, and he's out. So now we have to find other ways. And what we achieved in this game a little bit is an ability to build belief that we can play our football and find ways to manufacture goals and create winning scenarios for ourselves absent key players. And I don't think a lot of teams can do that, by the way. I think there are a lot of teams that have a way of playing that relies on certain load-bearing walls in the team, certain members of the squad, and when you take that out, they just don't look the same. Manchester City was thought of as unstoppable. But you take out a Rodri, you take out a John Stones, and suddenly they're tissue paper going back towards their own goal, right? Their rest defense is broken. Their ability to recover in transition is broken. It is very easy to take a very good team and break it when you take a few things out. And I do want to give Mikel credit, because I know he's under pressure and I understand why, but he has shown that we can take critical pieces out and still look familiar in the things we do and succeed in the things we do. So Clive, before we get into some of the moments in the match and the tactics specifically and the individuals, what do you think of sort of the character and quality that we showed in being able to manage this challenge? And was this sort of the accomplishment that the Ipswich game wasn't, in that it can restore for the group a bit of belief of who they are absent that big superstar talent to Bukayo Saka moving forward?
Yeah, I think the Ipswich game, I was more excited than most about that game because I could see us trying to resolve things on the pitch. I know it's only 1-0. Maybe if it's 2-0, it would be a bit more fun, and we'd have looked at some of the adjustments we made after half-time with a little more clarity. Except we're worried about the result, right? So when we look back at it and think, crack it, Ipswich never going to score. But you never can tell in football, right? So, but again, in this game, I thought, you mentioned there that we've managed to adjust and make adjustments, but I thought this game we were better again. And Brentford scored against some other play. So what did we do differently, right? So I think we've lent into the ugly side of the game even more, the fundamental sides of the game. I think we worked really hard in getting our territory, but really hard on counter-pressing. So my summary message would be the counter-pressing and aggression to run into the box and the box touches. Final third entries felt really good to me. They felt really good and direct. I did feel we took more risk playing the balls forward, which then can misconstrued us to bad performance, but not for me. I'm happy with it, as long as we're in shape to get it back. And that's the key thing. And if you make a mistake, you just react really, really quickly. Your reaction is much more important to me than what you're trying to do. So on the goal, if anything, when Odegaard plays the pass through, I was more upset with him that he didn't take the foul. Not that he missed the pass. I'm not bothered about missing the pass. I'm bothered that we need to take the foul. And you want to compare us to Liverpool, Sloboside, McAllister make that foul, no problem at all. They just make it. Right, and we have to make it too in the centre circle. Just make it and take the card and say sorry, ref. You know, so going forward is really important. I thought we counter-pressed really, really well. I thought we kept people there, a desire to keep people in areas. And what did Brentford do in response? They kept two up. They tried to. You know, the front two didn't press. They rested in front. You know, Wissa and Mbeumo, they rested and waited for a little transition, and we managed those transitions really, really well. And on the goal, it was just an inch off. Didn't close his legs, and they score, right. So I was really impressed with the desire to lead into the dirty fundamentals, retrieving possession, hitting the box hard, running down the sides, being patient when we need to. Cut the square passes I didn't like. Cost Timber his booking, for example. Didn't like that. But apart from that, I just liked what we did. And when we were around the edge of the box, I thought we were taking shots, banging shots. Even if we weren't balanced, we're taking them. You know, so again, one of my other, I've got many lines, but embracing the imperfections of football. Sometimes you don't have to be set. Just take the shot. And who knows what happens? You take the shot through a crowded box, goalkeeper weakly parries it out, and Jesus turns into Superman and flicks in the net. That's not an Arsenal goal. Let's be honest. That's not an Arsenal goal when we got everyone's flying and we got everyone isolated. But I thought we did that really well. One thing I said in the last podcast, which we really led into, so not because I said it, but I thought the proximity of our players in central areas was really, really good. And we crowded them. So by crowding, you can counter press. And I thought we were really good at crowding those areas, pinning them in, couldn't get their heads up. Proximity is our way forward for this. Because normally we spread the pitch, because we want Saka to have a spread pitch, right? Because he's brilliant. Right? But no, we brought it back into the middle and then kept people there, were really aggressive. And I'm thinking Brentford are going to play out, which they tried to, and we nabbed them. So I really enjoyed how we did this. It's just a football match without the sparkle, maybe, but with really strong fundamentals that we can repeat game after game after game.
We definitely possess different ways to create goals through the way we play, whether that's counter-pressing or set pieces, right? Corner kicks, things like that. And we're going to have to lean into that even more, right? We're going to have to lean into using the collective group to generate goals, absent individuals that can give us a spark, a moment of brilliance. I think, Phil, it did feel a little bit like our season in a microcosm, like with their goal though, right? Because we came out of the blocks pretty well. I thought we were dominating them. They didn't have any of the ball. Other teams tell you about yourself, by the way. Let's make no mistake, whether you think Arsenal are good, bad, or anything else, Brentford think we're good because they're the top scoring team at home in the league going into this game. They have one of the best records in the league at home. Granted, they played some of the bottom sides, but still. And they switched to a back five and played low block football. Now, I know they're a bit of a transition team, but they said to us, we don't want to get hammered by you. We're going to prioritize keeping the back door shut. And so we had all the ball. One bad giveaway, and as it has been this season, maximum punishment, right? And Mbeumo's pushed a little bit wide, I thought. I thought the danger was maybe gone when he's at the corner of the box. He maybe is shown the inside too much by a Calafiori that I think doesn't manage the situation. He lets the situation manage him, I thought, drops away a bit, and then squeezes the ball between some legs. A little unfortunate there. I think it takes a tiny deflection, actually, if you slow it down and look at it, which beats Raya to his near post. Doesn't look great from Raya, but hard to know with the deflection. Maybe Gabriel's late. The whole sequence, though, it just felt like the season summarized. One mistake, ruthlessly punished. So I think in that moment, because of the frustration, people were tearing strips off of everyone involved. And I get it, because you're 1-0 down and you're frustrated. Having rewatched it a lot, I'm not sure there's like a glaring error. Obviously, the giveaway, to Clive's point, just take the foul, don't let the play develop. But what do you think about that moment and the extent to which just, again, feels like the microcosm of the season as a whole?
Yeah, there were shades of Fulham in the goal. Yeah. I think the Raul Jimenez one, where for 10, 11 minutes, Fulham didn't touch the ball and then they break and score. So it felt very similar to that situation. But that's what Brentford wanted, especially with someone like Bryan Mbeumo, who likes those transitional moments. Look, what he wants to do in that situation is not rocket science. He wants to cut inside and bang a shot in on his left foot, and that's what he did. I agree with you. I think it was just a collection of mini errors that ended up really punishing us. The Ødegaard giveaway, not taking the foul, Calafiori maybe being a tiny step off. I don't actually think he defended the situation that badly, but Mbeumo finds him between the legs. Maybe the spacing wasn't ideal between him and breaking down the shot, but Gabriel is behind him, Raya's behind him. You kind of tell the forward in that situation, go on then. If you want to try and beat me from here, you have to beat me and two others as well. So. And then naturally with Gabriel in front of him, it comes through the legs of Calafiori. Raya is unsighted. Maybe he can't set himself. So it was just a few things that ended up turning into this snowball. And all of a sudden we're behind. So there's a real feeling of, again, this is happening. Especially considering we're such a good team defensively. I was reading a stat. And I think it was the last 9 goals that we've conceded have come from 0.97 XG. Which is insane. I mean, that's just like unprecedented stuff. So yes, we can defend situations a little bit better, but also we've also seen that some good finishing and other bits and pieces like that can have a real effect. So I thought we started well. We looked very sharp on the ball. We were moving it around nicely. But it did feel a bit typical in that moment that you think, oh, the first time Brentford even come into our half, where we're behind and chasing a game again away from home where we know we're not the strongest. So that naturally fed into a lot of anxiety and frustration. Because we see the bigger picture, right? We're a long way behind Liverpool, and we can't afford to go 1-0 down against Brentford away from home. So I think all of that just combined into one to create a real frustration within not only the team but within the fan base as well.
Yeah, and ultimately it's not falling behind; it's how you respond to that. It happens pretty early. There's plenty of time for us to respond, but the way we responded, I mean, you talk about sliding doors. If we got a bit unlucky on the goal, conceding so unfortunately from the one situation they created, we got a bit lucky when Raya let the ball go through his hands. And you can view this half empty, half full. Terrible by Raya to let it go through his hands, but what a phenomenal reaction to get back and slap it away. And I think it's 20 seconds or so later that we are level from a Thomas Partey shot that deflects, and Gabriel Jesus is quickest to it. I have to say, Clive, that I thought our way back into this game, as surprising as it was to me, came from Thomas Partey and his performance. We have in the last few games, when we've not played with him, I think found it difficult to get around the block or through the block, to play through the opposition mid-block, and that we've been a little too willing to go around the houses, center backs to fullbacks to center backs to fullbacks, around and around we go. And we haven't had the player who drops in, receives, turns, and takes it up the pitch. And Partey, maybe the most rested player in this 11 to some extent, right? He's had some time off. He looked excellent. He was receiving the ball in pockets of space, between the lines, turning, punching it forward or carrying it forward. He looked energetic, recovering. When he's good, he can cover the ground. And he was covering the ground. I thought he was our way back into it. It's his well-taken shot that leads to the Jesus goal. But overall, in the first half, the way we got back on top of this game, I thought, was through him being effective and able to do what was needed.
Yeah, I agree with you. I thought Partey was excellent. And in the Ipswich game, I was looking at how number 6 was playing, and I really thought they were pushing into the middle a little bit more. I want to get some average positions of this stuff and do a bit of analysis looking back. Because rather than being in between centre-backs, I thought he was much higher. And I thought Rice was the same as well, which allows them to counter-press a lot more. And so they're risking the fact that our centre-backs are the best centre-backs that Arsenal have ever had, in my opinion, as a pair. We can deal with most things, right? So to allow that player to be the 6 deeper when we want him to be, but not behind the centre-backs, which we've seen on occasions, but make sure we can counter-press. And I really liked what he did. And there's different things to what he does, right? So people have opinion on him regarding his recoverability. I personally think he's fine at that. I don't think Rodri's any quicker. He just gets the ball and fouls quicker, right? And so that's it. He's just a different way of doing things. Sometimes when he's overplayed, we can all see when he's maybe carrying something and he's a bit economical. But that shouldn't be the reason. People say, we want to make sure we can protect teams, and teams have more shots, but we have more shots. When I think about our best performances this year, he's played there. Look what happened in Lisbon, Elliot. It was some of the go forward stuff was really, really good. And so, and also there's another aspect to this. It's not just a technical aspect. People know he's good on the ball. So players step away from him, right? They just stand there and go, well, there's no point in pressing him. There's just no point because he just turns away. So I'm not jumping out of my hole, right? So, but also for our players, psychologically, they give it to him. That has a wonderful psychological impact. We can give it to somebody and you know it's going to be looked after. If you're a younger player, you just give it to uncle. Give it to him. He's always all right. And for those who've played, there's always that guy in the team. Arsenal got about 5 or 6, man. But there's always that guy in the team. I'm in a bit of trouble here. If I give it to him, how does he always get out of danger? How does he never lose it? That guy? There's always that guy. And he has that psychological impact over them. And I think it has an impact over us. And I've said from the start of the season, I just think there are many games where he's very, very suitable. You know, when he's fresh, everything's right. Like off the ball's right and on the ball's right. There are times, I'm not blind to it, there are times when he's got rigor mortis. You heard me say it before. And but we are very good and dominant. We've got other players that can take up some of that challenge in our team. You know, we've forsaken the Eze 8 for hard-working, sturdy 8s. So watch your distances and get close, because the playmaking of this guy is really, really top. So we have to protect him some of the things that maybe not always are good. But in this game, I thought he was good on both sides of the ball. But I will say again, positioning of the sixes is different. I like it. Much more dominant, much more counter-pressing. And there's a psychological impact to other players when he's on the pitch in that position, in this form. And it's a positive one, where I think in some stages in the recent past, that hasn't always been the case. But this season, if we hold our hands out and say, we've probably been our best midfielder this season so far.
Oh yeah. I don't think that's controversial to say. And I think it is the case right now that I look at him or Jorginho as a necessary part of the midfield, because at the moment, I don't see midfielders coming in, receiving the ball in pockets of space, turning and facing and progressing it. And I know, look, I know Declan Rice can do that. And it's not really a concern for me, but we did see Declan Rice play 6 in the previous game. And I don't think he was doing as much of it as we might like. Mikel Merino.
Can I say something there, Elliot?
Mm-hmm.
Just because I think it's important to embrace. We have to embrace the differences in players.
Yeah.
He's different. So it doesn't matter. We haven't got to take a side. Declan Rice, when he's he's even more counter pressing. I mean, he doesn't need to be playing the ball. If he just goes and gets it and knocks it 3 yards. So we're different. And we're all seasoned watchers of Arsenal. We all spot a Declan Rice game in 2 seconds flat, wouldn't we? We think, you know what? This is a game for Rice. And we can all tell what that game is. We just got to embrace the differences in players and what they actually offer.
Yeah, I mean, Declan Rice is one of the best midfielders in the Premier League and the world. But you wouldn't say that receiving on the half turn and progressing the ball, punching the ball between the lines is his superpower. I don't think you'd say that. And I think the problem we run into is when Rice plays 6 and we play someone like Kai at left 8 or Merino at left 8, who are not elite passers from midfield, Odegaard is really the only guy. And I do think then we're short one. And what you saw with Partey here is he could replace some of what you don't get with Merino. Because I'll level with you, in the first half, first of all, I don't think the players were giving the ball to Merino. And he really was struggling to get on the ball and punch it between the lines or pass it all. And if you look at the left-hand side, Martinelli had almost no touches in the first half. Calafiori passed it under 80%. Merino barely had any touches and passed it under 80%. Look at the other side. Saliba, 92%. Timber, 84%, and was on the ball a lot. Thomas Partey, a ton of passes at a high percentage. Odegaard, right? So you have to have that ball progression somewhere from your midfield. And so it's about balance. For me, Declan Rice is one of the best midfielders in the world. But if you're not going to play him with another on-ball, progressive passing midfielder in that other 8, you can, I think, be stifled a bit. Brentford were not able to stifle us, and I think part of that is because of Partey's ability to receive, turn, and progress it. And also, we went long at times, as you referenced earlier, Clive, and we were willing to win second balls, and we did win enough second balls, and that's how we got goals, by the way. And you know what, Phil, the goal, the equalizer, I think is a testament to how you can use control to create opportunities, push teams back, squish them into their own defensive third, get enough bodies forward. And if there's one thing that's been missing this season, we've talked a lot about the bounces not going our way. Against Fulham, against Everton, we had a lot of dominance. The irony is the XG of those games and this game, all pretty similar. Roughly 2 for Arsenal, roughly half or 2.2 or 0.1 for the opposition. Right? But those ended 1-1 and 0-0, and this ended 3-1. And this is a great example of seizing the moment, because this is a bounce. It falls somewhere where we can get to it. But Jesus gambles. He's quickest. He shows a striker's instinct. The thing we were so furious at him for not doing against Everton, now a few goals later and a little more confidence in his game, and he's jumping at that ball from the center forward position. And I think what you're seeing in Jesus now, Phil, is he has embraced the center forwards role again, that, hey, it's all well and good to drop in and connect play, but we need you in the box. We need you on the end of moves. So when a ball falls in the box, you're there to get to it. And he did it. And I think he deserves the credit for his gamble there and his reactions, his center forward instincts,
I think you've nailed it there. I was just about to say, what were we frustrated about most with Gabriel Jesus? And that was his distance from goal. I mean, even when he was playing as our centre forward, he was playing on the halfway line at times. He was going out to the left. He was coming in to play 1-2s with R6 or R8. And the whole point of being a central striker is to be in the penalty box. So that is a big thing with Jesus. And I think you can see it when he's confident, when he's sniffing the goals, he plays a lot more in those areas. And when he wasn't, he was way too far away. So look, it's something that drives me crazy with this Arsenal team. There's not a lot, but we wait for the picture perfect, inch perfect opportunities to shoot all the time. Ødegaard's happy to look for another pass when maybe it's not on. We always look to find the congestion and then go back into it once we've made the space. And I think what makes Saka such a good player is that he's not afraid to shoot. So it was really pleasing for me to see Partey shoot from the edge of the box, to see people shooting from the edge of the box, to look for bounces and things like that, because that can unsettle defenses just as much as a perfect through ball. You know, sometimes you get the luck of a dodgy bounce or a deflection or a keeper parrying something out. And I'm always drawn back to Moneyball now, because the famous quote from, well, it's obviously Brad Pitt playing Billy Bean, but he says we can't replace Giambi. What we might be able to do is recreate him. And I think what Saka does is shoot. So what do we need to do? Shoot more. We cannot replace Saka. What we need to do is get everybody shooting a bit more, a bit closer to goal, and that's how we score goals. So it was really, really good for me. Was the play amazing? Was it one-touch football combination play? No. It was horrible. It was like a penalty box pinball.
Yeah.
But did we get the goal at the end of it? Yes, because people were switched on and they were proactive, which is, especially away from home, something that you need to do. So I was really, really pleased with the goal. And I think you could see the transformation in Jesus' thinking, because he's sniffing out those chances now, as opposed to being on the edge of the box where he's maybe involved and maybe not. So I didn't mind it at all. Yeah.
Think about this, Clive. Like, we have a rebound that falls to Jesus, headed in. We have a pinball in the box from a corner that Merino blasts in. And we have a cross that comes off the back of a defender and Martinelli volleys in. Against Everton, Ødegaard had 4 better chances in the box that fell to him. Slots one wide, fires one over, hits one that's blocked, right? What makes this game encouraging is we created enough pressure that when the ball bounced to us in the box, when we took chances, when we fired in shots, when we put in crosses, players were there to capitalize. And I think Phil's point is a brilliant one, which is we can't replace Saka's individual brilliance, but we can recreate the output he has through the group and through our positioning on the pitch and our reaction to moments like we did in this game, you know?
Yeah, proximity. That's the word I used last time. I think it's the best way for us to do it in a group way, to be closer together. When I saw Timber so attacking on the right-hand side, I was smiling to myself because I want that forces everyone inside. Do you see what I mean? It forces proximity in the central areas. I really like that. And so, yeah, I think the point there about switching on is a really important one. I remember this from many years ago. I remember looking at an academy sort of assessment of a player and then measurements, how they'd assess a player. It's the first time I've ever seen this sort of metric where they would try to measure your speed of transitions from defence to attack, from attack to defence. And it was seen as a measure of a player, developing player. That's really cute. That's really smart. Because if you've got a collective thing, you want to drive that collective reaction to actions. So when we win it, you know, we win it together. But if you lose it, do you switch to a defender really, really quickly? And I thought around the edges, around zone 14, our ability to force a pass, but if we lost it, the reaction to get it back was lightning. It was absolutely lightning. It was urgent. It was quick. And it was so collective. That's when you know it's a message. It's a message, you know? And that was my favourite thing. Because I also watch other teams and I'm seeing ricochets and turnovers and going through. I'm watching this thinking, we don't get that. Why don't we get that? Well, why? And back to Elliot's got me, like Elliot voice goes through my head. We've got to force the margins. And I'm thinking, well, you need to be there to get those little bounces. You need to be in there. You need to be aggressive. You need to run through. There was one pass I'm really excited about. I think it was Merino into Martinelli in the box. Martinelli has one soft touch and fires off an ugly shot immediately. Didn't wait for the curler to the top corner, tried to beat another man. That's encouraging. And we should really encourage that, that sort of action, and really recognise that the shot wasn't great, but it's the right thing to do, the right speed, one touch hit, see what happens, right? And that's what we did a lot more in this game. So functional, but in some ways, I feel really positive, really positive.
I think we made a tweak too, because I don't think either of our wide players spent a lot of time out on the touchline like we've seen at other parts of this season. Martinelli gets his goal from just about, the 6-yard-ish box. I mean, he's more central more often in this game. And Ethan Nwaneri was playing more 10 than 7 in a way. I have to tell you, Phil, like I am blown away by Ethan Nwaneri. And I think the only way you could wind up not being blown away by Ethan Nwaneri is if you've forgotten how young 17 is. I mean, I think Tim said this on the instant reaction, and when it hit my ear, I had to double check it. He's 6 years younger than Martinelli, right? He's almost 6 years younger than Bukayo Saka. I mean, that's how young this guy is. The thing that I see with him is that the physical level is not a problem for him, right? He can ride the challenges. He can beat men. He has the physical capability. And I think the thing you see in him and Miles Lewis-Skelly is that both of them look physically ready to play with men, right? And that really showed up with Miles Lewis-Skelly against Ipswich, where they tried to target him for some physical treatment and he just sort of shoved it off. It didn't get to him. I think Ethan did brilliantly here. The thing for me with Nwaneri that I think is the next step in his game, where he's going to go from this being a stock rising kind of performance to the moon, is that next action. Can he get that next action a little quicker? There's that moment, you've probably seen it all over social media already, where he nutmegs the Brentford defender and turns past him and sprints away. What that video shuts off is what happens next. As he's sprinting away, Odegaard makes a really clever forward run, and Martinelli's available out wide, and he doesn't quite make the decision to release it quickly enough. And by the time he does, he gets clattered and the ball goes back to Brentford. So what I see in Nwaneri is a player who can replace Saka stylistically, and it's just that next action being a little quicker that's going to make the difference. But we started to see, as the game wore on, the rondos on the right, the triangles, right, the understanding developing. I was so impressed by him, and I think you can see the sky is absolutely the limit. And much the way that injuries create opportunities, it's how Hector Bellerin got in the squad. To some extent, it's how Saka himself got in the squad. Saka's injury, more than Odegaard's, I think, opens up a clear opportunity for Nwaneri to play in a way and in a position where he can really start to flash some of his precocious skill. So let's spend a little time talking about the Nwaneri performance and what you think it heralds for the next couple of games and weeks and months.
Whew, what a talent we have here. Wow. I mean, it's quite pertinent actually, because I think we spoke about it a couple of weeks ago, where if Saka gets injured and Sterling isn't available for whatever reason, who would you prefer on the right? Ethan Nwaneri or Fabio Vieira? And there's been rumours about potentially recalling Fabio Vieira. There was a bit in the post, maybe with that potentially coming in. Apologies for jinxing those injuries, but I think that question has been answered after just 78 minutes of football, because when Fabio Vieira was allowed to leave on loan this summer, despite Smith Rowe going to Fulham, the messaging was clear if you read between the lines. First of all, it meant that Arteta and the club weren't happy with his performances or the rate of his development, but also that they were willing to prioritise Nwaneri, his minutes and his development ahead of Vieira. And I was so impressed with him yesterday. Just he will never be the finished product at 17, and nobody is expecting him to be, nor can he magically replace the output of Saka. But the fact that he keeps coming in at that age and look comfortable is a credit to him. He has so much personality and gravity on the ball. There's never any rush or panic or treating the ball like a hot potato. Players trust him. And I think it's often the small things with him, the way he receives the ball, making sure his first touch takes him into space as opposed to towards congestion. There's quite a lot of Odegaard in that, just a real appreciation for space. In pool or snooker, where you obviously have to take your shot with the next shot in mind to kind of set yourself up for the next one. Almost like that, in how the pictures are almost developing 2 or 3 steps ahead of where he actually is. And actually, to be honest, maybe I did a slight disservice by saying he couldn't come in and replace the output of Saka, because ultimately our 2 second half goals come from his corner, which was right on the money. And then it was another Saka-esque cross to the back post to set up the third, which Art de Roche actually recorded him practicing during the warm-up. So it was obviously intentional, that move towards the back post. I think he's a super talent, super talent. I'm in awe at the comfort that he is able to display, just the ease at which he moves around with the ball, the decision making. Yes, he needed to release the ball a couple of times, but I'm so pleased that he's able to contribute to this team, because now more than ever we need someone of that profile. And I think he's got a real ability to score goals, which I think we lack as well. He's just super talented, super easy on the ball. I think what tells you about the talent of a player and the strength of a player, especially when they're young, is how easily and readily other players are ready to give him the ball.
Yeah.
And they always give it to him. Always. If he's on the touchline, if he's in the centre, if he's got two players around him, if he's on the edge of the box, they've got no issue giving him the ball. And it's a huge testament to him, but also Arteta, because I think he's managed him brilliantly when maybe the temptation would have been to throw him in a lot earlier, when idiots like me wanted him to come in and replace Ødegaard. So brilliant.
Well, and I've said this on the pod before. I think a young player coming in as a wide forward is easier than coming in as a central midfielder. The complexity, the responsibility of being in central midfield, the fact that players are coming at you from both angles, that if you lose the ball in central space, Ødegaard is one of our best players. His loss of the ball leads to their goal. There's a lot of things that can go wrong in that position. That is, I don't know if you guys say this in England, but, like in university, we have the 101 level course, the 201, the 301, right? Like if out wide is 101 or 201, midfield is the 301. It's the advanced level course. And so I think he can play in this role with a bit more freedom, and the risk reward profile is slightly different. And I'll tell you what, if Ødegaard had been in better form in this game, I think you could have seen a huge game from Nwaneri. He has real instincts for that darting run just off the shoulder of the last defender in the final third. Ødegaard's little chipped through balls and through ball attempts didn't quite come off in this game, but there were a couple of times where he was trying to play him in, and it didn't just happen. I think we could see that bear fruit. Stylistically, he matches what you see with Saka. And I think, with all due respect to Martinelli, who was fantastic in the second half of this game and really started to show his quality, and we needed that. I don't trust his dribbling consistently, but I trust Nwaneri to be able to beat a man. And if you're going to break down a low block, you can do it with corners, you can do it with crosses, you can do it with some of the bounces going your way, as we've talked about proximity, as Clive said. An easy way to do it, the easiest way, is someone beats a man and pulls players out of position, and from there you create openings. And I think Nwaneri can do that. So Clive, I would be inclined to continue with this. Obviously, another option would be Jesus off the right and Kai through the middle. There are other ways we can go. If Sterling is back, he is the more experienced option as well. But I am of the opinion that maybe our path to this season still being what we want it to be is you roll the dice on Nwaneri and you get the once-in-a-generation talent. And that becomes the thing that catapults you to a season that otherwise might have been difficult to get to. I would roll the dice on this guy. What do you think of this kid, I guess? What do you think of the performance and his potential to build on this moving forward?
Yeah, it's very difficult to sort of go with any one player at the moment when we're playing. I'm not going to say every 3 days. It feels like every 2.5 days.
Yeah, good point. He's 17. He can't play all the games. He just can't.
Yeah. Can't do it, right? But it's pleasing to see. I am one for the inverted sort of wide person. I think I like it. Again, coaching story. When you go out to the exterior of a team, and the ability of a player to cut against the grain on his strong foot, and as the team is recovering over, as you switch the point of the attack, is a really powerful thing. And then to be able to deliver it with quality on his strong foot into areas that we know we want to get to, and the other team are trying to defend. Just that threat alone is really important. But you must have the threat of going on the outside. So he does a couple of step-overs, goes on the outside. That means that, is it Lewis Potter plays out there? I think he now has to think about it. So Lewis Potter, he has a moment, gives him a shoulder, says, yeah, mate, see you later. I'm thinking, you're lucky it's not Saka, mate, because you'll be in the mud if it was Saka. But look, he's 17, you can have that moment. But what does he do after that? He runs forward very, very quickly, gets into his run quick, runs straight at the defender, frees, then chops it back onto his left foot and dinks it. And because he's worked that moment by going on the outside, kicking it to the goalkeeper, kicking it, getting a corner. By doing 3 runs on the outside, he's created time and space to dink it on the inside. It doesn't just happen. You have to work your man like a boxer in a fight, give him a couple of jabs, then go to the body. Do you know what I mean? And that's what he did. He worked his man. And I've had this theory about not trying to replace Saka because everyone's going to disappoint you. But he's the one player that won't disappoint us because he's one of ours. Do you see what I mean? He's one of ours. And in a strange way, he has such a strong, defined game of his own personal qualities that he's not mimicking Saka. He's just a very good version of himself with the ability to sprint inside and outside. Mate, and he has got, it's not here yet, he has got the heaviest foot going. When he kicks that ball, mate, it's kicked. And it's coming quick. It's coming. He had a shot in this game that got blocked. He really hits it. And so, yeah, for people, he's not a surprise to most people who watch young players, Phil, and he's the best 17-year-old in the country, and it's well known. And he was the best 16-year-old. He was the best 15-year-old. and that's it as an offensive talent. So he's well known, been on the England track for ages, and now he's here. And we should be tipping our hat to the manager, because there are a lot of young players there's one player at Spurs that got put in maybe a bit too soon and has got a bit of an injury and he struggled to get back in. We waited, we took our time, we waited, and now we need him. He's fresh and ready to go and he's fit. And I think the manager deserves much more credit than people were giving him by waiting till the right moment to play.
Yeah, I'm really excited by it. I think there are moments where you have to make a decision about whether you're ready to just fling the door open to a player and see where they can take you. There are a lot of ways we can set up on the right, especially if Sterling is fit. We can play him there and Jesus or Kai through the middle. We can play Jesus there and Kai through the middle. Martinelli has spent some time there, although I certainly don't think a right footer on the right is Mikel's first choice. I know Jesus is a right footer as well, but I think he can go a little bit both directions more than Martinelli can. But I just think, first of all, investing in Nwaneri has long-term benefits for you if you do that. Not that we want to throw this season away, but I don't think you're throwing the season away. I do think that you could roll, double sixes here. You could get the outcome you need. So I would lean into it. And we'll just have to see what he does. To Clive's point, though, I think we also have to be careful to remember that a 17-year-old is not going to play Wednesdays in the Champions League and Saturdays in the Premier League and Tuesdays in the League Cup and Saturdays in the Premier League. Okay, we're going to have to give him moments to come out of the squad, just as we brought Miles Lewis-Skelly out of the team for this game. And I imagine he'll probably come back in the team for upcoming games that we have, maybe in the FA Cup and the League Cup as well. Those are not going to be easy games. So this was an interesting one, though, Phil. It's a bit of a tale of two halves, a bit for certain players. But I think the left-hand side in general, at least in the first half, was a bit of a struggle. Calafiori, I don't think looked super comfortable. Nor did Merino, nor did Martinelli. I thought Martinelli, as I said, really grew into the game as after his goal. He looked sensational. I think game state helped him too. When the block wasn't as low, he looked a lot more influential and dangerous. Merino got his goal, but otherwise, I think we're still trying to get him to understand where he needs to be. And one of the things I wanted to ask you about is Merino in the press. Pressing is a really important part of what we do. There were a few times there where I thought Merino dropped away, wasn't sure of his position. I saw Jesus kind of remonstrating with him, like, you're supposed to be here, what are you doing? And there's a little bit of a learning curve there, but also this is a 28-year-old Spain international who was bought, I think, to hit the ground running. How do you parse some of this? I think with Merino, I find myself still squinting to see it a bit. And he gets a goal. And maybe that's the whole point, is he's there for nothing other than the fact that this is a guy who crashes a box and has a big body and is going to be in position, is going to get us goals, and we need goals. But from a linking standpoint, from a pressing standpoint, I thought he was maybe just off a bit in some of those actions. So what do you think of that? Maybe in particular, the coordination of the press and him needing to learn that a bit more.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly normal, to be honest. And you say that there maybe were a few times he didn't look entirely convincing, but he also won possession in the attacking third 5 times against Brentford. No other player has done more than that in the Premier League this season in a game. So
interesting. Yeah.
It does show you that maybe it's a volume thing with him, that sometimes it's about risk and reward. Sometimes you're going to go and you're not going to get it, but other times you are going to go and you will. I find this player really interesting, how divisive he continues to be among the fan base. I can't sit here and pretend that he's been perfect, because he hasn't. But I also think this might be a case of expectations being the enemy of success, because people see a Spanish midfielder coming in and imagine David Silva, Santi Cazorla, Cesc Fabregas. But the truth is, he's always been like this. He's always been a very functional, physical player whose focus is centered around finality, the final touch, the final move. He wins headers. He wins duels. He prefers to try those Hollywood passes instead of bopping it around, finding the wall passes. He will be the guy on the end of set pieces. And I think the issue with him that a lot of people have is a misprofiling thing, because some people might have wanted a more adventurous, ambitious, playmakery number 8.
You can just say my name. You don't have to say some.
Look,
people.
I tried to be.
Am I
kind
some
about
people
that.
to you?
Yeah, I tried to be kind about that. But look, I would have been happy with one of those styles as well. But it's just the way that we went, and you can debate whether that was the right way. But this is the player that we bought. Okay, so we need to get used to what he is and what he's doing. I think he releases the ball a bit too slowly still. I don't think he looks...
Can I stop you on that? I want to hold you on that because I agree, but this is the thing. Part of the theory of the case with him was he's a 75% passer. He's not a high volume passer, but he does things in the final third at tempo. He plays the Hollywood pass. He does the flick. He does the one, the first time action. They don't all come off, but that's his thing. And so that was the thing that surprised me, Phil, is actually, it almost feels like we've neutered him a bit because he's not doing things first time and quickly and on instinct in the attacking third.
I agree with you. I think he's been too slow to release the ball at times. His touch has been a bit bobbly, especially
the turning
when
radius is a bit wide.
No, I agree. When we're trying to move the ball forward quickly, he's taking a touch, bringing it back, waiting for players to maybe come in on both sides when the plan is just go, give the ball to the nearest man and see where that takes us. Look, I said it already. I can't say that he's been perfect because he hasn't been, but I also understand him as a player and also the environment that he's come into, getting injured in his first training session. He came into a team that was really struggling. We know the left 8 takes a while for anyone to master, let alone, it took Granit Xhaka a while to get there, Kai Havertz a while to get there. I mean, we were saying things about Kai Havertz last season as well, that we were squinting to see him. And now he's a really important player for us. So I just think we need to wait a little bit. He is a guy...
Wait, I got to make sure I hear what you're saying. You're saying Merino is going to go on to be one of the best strikers in the league from January
That's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah, the false 9 arc is coming. I just think him coming in made us think that the left hand side was instantly going to be transformed. But realistically, we haven't had any time to see him there with the people that we want in there. So it's going to take a while. I think he brings us a lot in those forward areas in terms of being a presence, those crosses to the back post, the set pieces. Is that the ideal thing we want from our left 8? Maybe not, but it's what Mikel wants, and it's how we're going to use him for now. So I just think there's an expectation issue here that people saw him coming in and they wanted someone who could maybe do a bit more on the ball, be a Granit Xhaka type player who was all about progression, finding those passes. But he's never been that. He's never been that. And I think when the game became a bit more condensed in the second half, when we needed to limit those transitions, he was really good. I thought he was really, really good in helping us get those second balls, regain that control. And I think it was Matt Giant Guna who said he might be our version of Fellaini. Which people laughed about, but it's not a bad comparison. And Fellaini was very effective at times. He was United's best player at some point. So is that the player we wanted as a fan base? Maybe not, but it's the decision we decided to take with Mikel and the club. They just went that way. So I think maybe people need to just recalibrate their brains a little bit and see Merino for what he is, as opposed to projecting things onto him.
Yeah, to your point, I mean, about who we are. When we got 3-1 up, you know what Brentford did? They quit. They gave up. They did nothing. They had one shot from a set piece, and that was it. In the whole of the second half, one shot worth 0.1 expected goals from a corner, no open play shots. They did nothing. And that's the thing. This team, whether you like it or you hate it, can absolutely turn the lights off and send everybody home. And once we got to 3-1, I mean, what was their sub? They did 4 subs with an eye towards the next game in the 72nd minute because they knew the game was won. Clive, your thoughts on the left-hand side and maybe Merino's integration over there?
Yeah, Phil covered a lot of it. But I will say, I think I'm still learning about him, and if anything, I'm still learning about that position. I think it's becoming clearer what he really wants. Hey mate, if you got a disco dancer in Jesus, let's be honest, he scored his goal from between the sticks, but he's not always there. So he needs somebody else who's going to arrive into that position. So it's just all about balance. Martinelli had one of his strongest games, had the most box touches and shots he's had in a long time. Funny that, he had a guy behind him, So and so sometimes you just get things that you don't expect. So yeah, what I will say, I have these little phrases that go through my head when I watch him play. I think he's like a fireman. He runs into a burning building, right? So when there's any sort of bobbling balls around, he just runs directly at the situation. Just into the burning building. Here I go, and I'm coming out with a young child over my shoulder. I'm the hero. He just runs to trauma and just fixes it. He just gets the ball. It's really interesting. He can read bad touches. He can read it, and he just goes directly at it, and then he's able to win the ball. I'm wondering how he does all his dueling. I'm thinking, I need to watch him closely. That's what he does. Now I've said that, you watch him thereafter. I think he gives us solidity, and I don't mind him. Now, when you have a few games that we get nil, when we lose our most attacking, penetrative superstar player, and then when you're thinking, oh, crikey, we're not sure what we're going to get from Jesus and Havertz. Havertz has done really well goal scoring, but some people don't like him. He's too lackadaisical. Trossard's one game brilliant, one game not so good. Martinelli hasn't beaten a man since 1066. We're gonna look around and go, oh, did we need to buy Mourinho? Could we got another attacking player? That's all it is. When everything's in place, then we'll be fine. I sat here with you and Paul, and Merino was solving world hunger and world peace, wasn't he? When on that left 8 with Rice as the 6 and Odegaard, the balance was perfect. And that will come back again when other people are in the team get given us the things that we don't have. But while we're working this through, can we change our play style to platform players like him to give us what we need? And we got it. We got a goal from him. We got presence. I'm with you guys.
Ball recoveries.
Yeah, I saw some of the passes. I think, mate, you're half a yard behind the man there. Could you just spin it out straight away there? Of course, we've never played a bad pass in our lives, have we, lads? Nope, never happened. Right, so yeah, but yeah, so it's a work in progress there. But we're okay. I'm okay. I'm waiting before we chuck him out the.
I think you just said something really important there, though, Clive, about. You look where the ball falls and there he is rushing in, because what's interesting is you look at touches in the opposition box. And by the way, once again, just in terms of dominance, away at Brentford, a team that has been one of the top scoring teams at home, they had 10 touches in the opposition box all game. We had 47. Okay. Here are the players who had the most for us. 13 for Jesus, 11 for Martinelli, by the way, and 10 for Mikel Merino. So that tells you what that role is. He's following directions, get in the box. Get your shots off. Go put your head in, right? Be a presence in there for us. And that's what he did. And by the way, I think, those 11 touches in the box for Martinelli came with 4 shots, 4 chances created. Gabriel Jesus, 3 shots, 4 of 4 dribbles, 13 touches in the box. These players are playing in the places we needed them to be, and they're getting there now. And this is why you can have strong opinions, but they should be loosely held, because Gabriel Jesus looked like his football was gone. Martinelli looked like his football was gone. They come into this game, they've got some goals under their belt, and suddenly there is a revival there, and players can come back to you. I don't think anybody ever thought Martinelli was a bad player or Jesus was a bad player, but something had gone wrong. Players can come back to you. And those players sort of came back in this game. And I think that is really important, Clive. I mean, if we get a Martinelli, he doesn't have to be the best player in the league. But if we get a Martinelli that's getting 4 shots a game and creating 4 chances a game, we are going to go to another level attacking. If Gabriel Jesus has 3 shots a game, completes 4 dribbles a game, has 13 touches in the opposition box, our attack is going to look a lot healthier. So, we're rediscovering these players. And I'm wondering what you think about, we talked about Nwaneri being a way to potentially replace Saka, but sometimes one of the things you need when you lose a key player is players that maybe weren't pulling their weight, finding their game a little bit again. And maybe these players are coming back to us at just the right time.
Yeah, you can debate if you think Martinelli's good enough for Arsenal in that mythical team that we're all picking in our minds, particularly in the open transfer window. You can debate if Jesus is long-term in the club, but all you really want to see is them be who they are, right? And that there's been a period of time where they haven't been who they are, or been as effective, and they're now waking up to that. They're realising that, and I thought Martinelli's performance was really, really good. And again, I look for engagement. He looks so engaged in the team on and off the ball. I saw something in Sky today that he ran 11.5k, which is the most of all our players. I mean, when you see that stuff, and he scored, and the rest of the shots and stats, Elliot, when you see that stuff, you just clap your hands, didn't you? You say, "Yep, brilliant. That's all we want for you to be you." Is you it? Another discussion, another podcast, right? But that is good enough for us. We need to get more of that. We need to get more of that from him, because that's the player he is. He's an experienced 23-year-old now, and this is not the time to go hiding. This is the time to step up, and he has. And you saw celebration with the crowd, and I felt pleased for him. He has this. He's 23, but he's quite young. You know what I mean by that? He's quite a young lad. I've always felt that. He's very young. And but yeah, fair play to him. I was really, really happy for him. And on his goal, I speak with him about having gears. It is so difficult to slow down when that ball bounces up at you like that. To slow down, to sort of make sure your first touch takes it to your strong side. And then the ball's sitting up there, Elliot. Trust me, mate. Everything in your body is saying, whack that thing as hard as you like, because it's just there. And he just strokes it, just clips it with his laces. And when you time it like a golf shot, you time it right, it flies, right? And I thought that goal said a lot about his quality. Really did a lot about his quality. It was a really good moment.
I don't think technique has ever been his problem. We've seen him bring down 60-yard passes out of the sky with one touch on the run. He had one in this game where he broke away and it came over his shoulder and he controlled it in one, sprinted away, slid it into to Jesus, who slotted just wide. I think the issue in his game, honestly, is the 6 inches between his ears. He just stopped playing on instinct. He stopped playing, first time, and he's overthinking his game, and players are able to shut him down. I just think if he can get back to really trusting his instincts, he's got the technique for it, Clive.
You know what, Elliot? You just reminded me of something that I missed. Intelligence. If I have a criticism of him, it's his IQ. No, that's the bit. Not his ability, his IQ to apply his ability. That's the thing that maybe not developing as quickly as we'd like to see. But that's from a frustrated fan watching and hoping for different things. Do you know what I mean? So I need to reassess that always. But I saw a lot more intelligence in this game. But that IQ piece, what I said before about him almost finding a youth drug and not maturing? I've sort of refreshed it and said it's actual IQ. Don't do dumb stuff. You're really you got talent. I thought when we watch his game again and you watch his movement, it was everywhere. Trying to force situations, which is much more him. Maybe you're not smart, but you're really, really mobile. So be mobile. Do you know what I mean? Be mobile. That's all right. Leave the smarts to Saka, Odegaard, and Nwaneri. They got this IQ, which is off the charts, right? You've got something else, but be that player. And I'm really impressed with him, I got to say.
And just don't beat yourself up. I mean, you saw the celebration. You said it. He put on the Arsenal scarf. He's cheering with the fans. Look how happy he was for that goal. This is a player who wants to score, wants to make an impact. I think about Alex Iwobi. You remember Iwobi at Arsenal? When he would get something wrong, he would visibly lower his head and express frustration with himself on the pitch that you could see. You can't
Oxlade-Chamberlain as well.
Ox was like that. Yeah, you can't do it. You got to have the memory of a hummingbird. What is a short memory?
Goldfish.
Memory of a goldfish. That's the one. Hummingbirds probably do too. Let's be honest. You got to have the memory of a goldfish to be a footballer, and I think the self-doubt can't be worn on your face as you're playing. The opposition will eat you alive, and so maybe he can just get back to that joy and play with a lot of freedom. Because what we started to see. This is the other thing about game state. There was that moment he sprints away and Raya has that brilliant long throw to him and he's sprinting in the opposition half and Flecken gets out to head it. But if we're going to start to get leads and Martinelli can start running at teams that are pushing up a little bit more, then we can start to see some of the devastation he brings. And I hope for him that we see that, because I still think the player that is in there is one that, again, if we find him, if we find Jesus, these are things that maybe we had written off that can bring the season back for us a bit. The Raya conversation is actually a bit of an interesting one. Phil, just quickly, I think he's been so good that we sort of forget the keepers can make mistakes. I think he's a little slow to get down for the Mbeumo shot. I think it's slightly deflected. I think he's cheating a little to the far post. But, I don't think it's a howler. The one that goes through his hands is a howler, but he saves it. But the thing that just strikes me again with Raya that we take for granted, there's a moment, I think it's before they score actually, where there's a flick on the left-hand side and they get a cross in and it's going to be a tap in. Calafiori hasn't been able to keep up with Mbeumo and Raya gets down quickly to claim it. He claims crosses so well. The ball is at his feet all game, and he just consistently has to be the first man to distribute. So I think, there was a near howler in this game, and maybe he doesn't cover himself in glory on the goal. But again, he's a player who is doing so much for us. He plays every game because we don't have a backup who can play in the cups because Neto has been cup tied in the League Cup, and you're not going to use him in the Champions League. So any thoughts on Raya? Ironically, I actually think this is a good Raya game. It's just that, it nearly was a disaster Raya game,
Yeah, not an easy one for him to come back to Brentford as well, where he's probably wanting to put on his best suit for the fans that he left a couple of years ago. I think we need to assess Raya differently because we need him to be two things. We need him to be a goalkeeper and a centre-back, because half of the time he's our left centre-back, especially at home. So what we need from him in possession, I don't think any other keeper in the league is doing at the moment. Even Edison, who I think is exceptional on the ball, I don't think he can do what Raya does. He's more long distribution. The way Raya can just settle into that back line, drifts out to the left-hand side, finds those angles, so calm, usually very accurate, is very important for us. But also, he's got two magnets in his arms. When teams are pushing us late on, long balls, free kicks, corners, crosses, he claims everything. I mean, it's for a keeper that's not especially tall as well. I mean, what is he, 6'1"? The aura that he manages to kind of put out to players in that 6-yard box is incredible. And yes, there have been a couple of mistakes, but goalkeepers make mistakes. The fact is he's been brilliant this season, and for most of this season will have been up there for our best player, or there's been double saves. The one against Atalanta, the penalty save, the double save against Villa. There was another good one against Palace. So those are match-winning moments as well. But I just think the calm that he manages to exude is night and day between Ramsdale, to be honest. And that we need that. He is a big part of why we are so secure at the back. And obviously Saliba, who I thought was brilliant in that second half, by the way, and Mbeumo didn't get a single kick. Gabriel, strong as always. But David Raya is a huge part of why we are so secure and calm at the back. So yes, that one that went through his fingers, maybe not the best look. Yes, maybe he could have got down to his near post a little bit quicker. But overall, I think we're very lucky to have him. And I don't have a huge issue with those things.
Yeah, we need a backup. Now, look, Neto might be fine. I don't know. He can't play in the League Cup. I mean, will he play against United in the FA Cup? I don't think you want David Raya playing every single game in 4 competitions all season long, Clive. I mean, that would be the one thing I would say is you'd like to have a backup who can give him a day off. And I mean, they don't. The physical exertion thing is a little different for keepers. I get it, but the mental exertion is a thing we don't factor in. And being under pressure every 3 days all season is intense. So you'd like there to be a backup in there,
Yeah, see what we do with that situation, because Neto's on loan. What if we send him back and buy somebody, right? And that could happen.
Buying another goalkeeper in January and nobody else. Can I tell you how well the Arsenal fan base would take that? They would take that with equanimity and grace. Let me tell you.
If we get a right back as well, then that's obviously that'll clinch it, right? So, but these are the holes that we have right now, because I don't know when Ben White's coming back, and Tomiyasu, we don't know the situation there as well, right? So,
well, he's posting on Instagram from Japan, I believe. So I wouldn't say anytime soon.
Yeah, and so I think you know what happened on deadline day, and I just happened to be in the club that day when the Juan Garcia situation rolled out, because I was in the book launch in the club, and suddenly Neto's name appeared out of nowhere. That was not the ideal. That was a massive backup based on the price that we were being shoved in. We were done there on the day they thought we had folded, and we didn't fold. We went another direction. So what's happened is that David Raya's had to play every game. Then of course he does really well for Arsenal. So what happens? Goes off and plays every game for Spain as well. Right? So and so this guy needs a rest. And it's not because he's going to do his hamstring, but it's just that mental sharpness that you need to have a few days away from it. Not having to be that guy that owns everything. So he's close on being our player of the season, mate. Honestly, because when we were really not at it at the start of the year, he was right there. And so I hope we can sort the goalkeeping situation out. I don't think we've been perfect in that situation as a club, for a while. I don't think it's been efficient, but we've ended up with the perfect goalkeeper for us. That's the truth. We've got the one. Maybe it's a long time coming, but we're here. Now we need to support him properly with a goalkeeping group that he can work with. And so watch your space in that one. Let's see what happens by the end of the month.
Yeah, well, we can start to wrap up by just quickly touching on the Brighton game that's coming up. I will say, Ricardo Calafiori, maybe not the best game, a little clunky at times. I think it's worth remembering, by the way, Ricardo Calafiori, outside of the academy kids, Skelly and Nwaneri, is our youngest player. He's younger than Bukayo Saka, right? I mean, he is our youngest player. And that is a complex position. He's being asked to go up there and show personality in the attacking third and then get back and defend when needed. I think he's a special player. I just think it's going to take time. He's played very, very little. And so I think we have to be patient. The challenge for him is Miles Lewis-Skelly looks fantastic back there too. So he actually has some competition and not in the place you would have expected. It's not from Tomiyasu. It's not from Zinchenko. It's not from Timber because White is out. Timber obviously brilliant again, but we won't have him for Brighton. And before we touch on that, I'll just say this. I really think we should stop and appreciate the extent to which Arsenal can just turn the lights out on a game. Because if you watch Tottenham, for example, they have a lead over Wolves, desperate to get it over the line. They can't get it over the line, can they? It's the history of the Tottenham. They can't get it over the line. There are a lot of teams that can't get it over the line to get pegged back. I'm not saying we've never been pegged back, but at the end of the day, Brentford didn't even try for this at 3-1. They were done. They said, we get it. We're not getting back in it. We're done. We'll go again next game. It's a beautiful thing to see. It's our first time, as Phil said, coming back to win a game from behind since the Villa game a couple seasons ago. This is a game state we need to learn to master because sometimes you're going to fall behind, and this was a good one. A lot of really good signs in this game. A very big show of character and quality in a difficult fixture with an illness in the team, with Saka gone, with pressure on. And the neat thing now, we play Brighton before Liverpool even play United. It could be 3 points in the gap by the time they play United. Now, look, let's be clear. They're beating United 7-0, and I'm going to try to enjoy it instead of wringing my hands about it. But getting it just to 3 psychologically, that would be big. And to do that, we're going to have to win at Brighton. And to win at Brighton, we're going to have to figure out what to do at right back. And unfortunately, Phil, it's no Jurrien Timber. The last day he picks up a yellow card, I think it's 50-50 on being a yellow. It's a bit harsh, but
I thought it was harsh, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's almost a good challenge. I don't have a real issue with it, but I think the way he went in lunging from one challenge to the second made it look like it was worse than it was. I can't complain too much, but we are going to be without him. And I think the presumption is that we'll probably use Partey at right back. And I know that there are a lot of people that don't want to see that, and especially, up against Matoma, that feels a little scary, although he's gone up against some very good wingers. I think he played against Liverpool at right back, and Diaz didn't do anything against him. But what do you think? How would you like to see Arsenal cope without Timber? And by the way, I will just say this: I hate that he can't play. It's maybe a blessing in disguise because the guy needs rest. He's playing a lot of minutes right now himself, so maybe that's a good thing for him. But how would you line up?
Yeah, you can really see him slow down in games towards the 70th, 75th minute. And I think that's a lot of preservation, because I think by that point, one more sprint could keep him out for 3 weeks. So I don't have a huge issue with him being out, although Brighton do have a number of tricky forwards, whether it's Matoma, Adingra, Joao Pedro, Brian Gruder. They've got Ruta as well there. So this is a lot of talent that they could potentially throw at us. I think it will be Thomas Partey at right back. We've got nobody else. So there's nobody else to put there unless we want to put together the corpse of Tomiyasu or Ben White and see what happens. But it's not ideal, but I think we've seen enough from Thomas Partey in those situations where he almost manages his game slightly. I will have concerns about putting Nwaneri ahead of him, just because he needs support, and Thomas Partey can't offer that support purely because of the physical need of what he needs in that area. But I don't have an issue with Partey playing there. We'll maybe put in Lewis Skelly, Calafiori. For me, it's the same thing. If Partey's going to be in that back four, I think they might go again with Calafiori purely because he can break the game a bit in terms of his ball carrying, in terms of being able to support in those areas, whereas Lewis Skelly is slightly more, I'll be the guy who's going to invert here. I think Partey will take that role. So let's be honest, it's not ideal. We don't like Partey playing at right back, but I think if that's the emergency situation we have, him being there is not the end of the world. And I think Declan Rice will come back into the six. We've also got Havertz to consider, maybe Jesus on the right. So even in our current state, we can still move things around a bit to suit the team and to suit the game. So that's where I think we'll go.
Yeah. What about you, Clive? How would you do it?
Yeah, I would do something similar. So look at it in the term of pods or units, right? So the left unit, I would keep the same. I would keep it the same. I'd keep Calafiori there, because we can almost build in a 3-2, but move Partey inside, so that just makes sense. Rice is happy on the left hand side of the six anyway, so that takes care of itself. On the right hand side, again, I'll do what Phil says. I actually think, I'm not sure if he will move Jesus actually, but I would like him to, but I almost don't want to move him because he's finding a groove. Do you know what I mean? And so, yeah, he wouldn't, if Kai wasn't quite right and he would just play, not be there for this game and just keep it the same, or maybe play him left 8, right? So, but I would move Jesus to the right. I'd play Kai at centre forward and create a unit with Jesus and Odegaard and Kai, who would naturally flip over to our right-hand side anyway, and that will make up for the fact that Partey won't be as high and overlapping. So we'd have a sort of a right unit there with Kai on that side with whoever it is, Ethan or Jesus. So that will take care of itself, right? So that's what I would do. Yeah, most important, what I'd like to see, just not concede the first goal with the first shot. Do you know what I mean? Can we just stop doing that? And that would be quite good. And let's not assume we're going to win again. It's another night game. Live on TV, everyone looking at us. If we are able to go and do it, a lot of the things we did in the Brentford game would have to be brought forward to this game. And I think we're growing. But let's see what happens.
It's a weird one. They are no wins in the league in 7.
Mm-hmm.
Now 5 of those are draws. 2 are losses. The losses are away to Fulham and home to Palace. They're allowing some crooked numbers on XG, if not on the scoreboard itself, but 2 to Villa. They drew 0-0 with Brentford, 1-1 to West Ham, 3-1 loss to Palace, 2-2 with Leicester, 3-1 loss to Fulham, 1-1 with Southampton. Looking through here, they haven't had a clean sheet since they beat Newcastle 1-0 away. Somehow Newcastle had 2 expected goals in that game. So sorry, Newcastle, you got varianced. Before that, their only other clean I take it back. They were 0-0 with Brentford in their second to last game, but not a lot of clean sheets for them. Interestingly, their bottom half in XG and XG allowed this season. It's not the Brighton, pushing for a European place that we necessarily think of. I'm very curious to see what we do, but I think we could try to out-physical them in midfield. I think that midfield looks lightweight. So if we want to go Rice, Merino, and Odegaard, I think we could have a massive power advantage there physically. And that's something that I would try to lean into. Ultimately, though, it's a chance to cut the gap to 3 points and see what United do against Liverpool, and that's what we'll have to do. I would stick with Nwaneri, I'll tell you that much. I don't think Sterling will be back. I don't know that I want Jesus on the right. I wouldn't move him. If he wants to play Kai over Merino, I'm fine with that too. But let's see what Ethan has. I'd give him another go. So we'll just have to see. We will obviously have an instant reaction after that. We're going to start the scouting videos once we get into more of the regular cadence next week. If you want to listen to the Power Rankings pod and have some schadenfreude about the very fun hate watches during the festive period, I would certainly advise you to do that. Otherwise, we'll have a main pod for you on Monday, instant reaction after the game. I think we can leave it there. That's plenty at this point. Happy New Year again, everybody. Thank you, Phil.
Cheers, man. Happy New Year.
Yeah, same to you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, and Happy New Year, everybody.
Yep. My name is Elliot Smith. You can block me everywhere. We love you. And we will talk to you after Arsenal 10, Brighton. No.